Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council will begin in a few moments. The City Council meets on the first, second, and third Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. and serves as the city's policy-making and legislative body. Each meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order unless those guidelines conflict with city ordinance or charter. City Council meetings offer an opportunity for citizens to speak directly to their elected representatives. Those in attendance are invited to address the Council during the public input segment at the beginning of the agenda. At that time, any issue that is not subject to formal action later in the agenda can be addressed. Testimony that concerns a resolution or an ordinance's second reading is only allowed when those specific agenda items are being addressed by the Council. When addressing the Council, citizens should speak directly into the microphones at the podium and state their names for the record after being recognized by the Chair. To accommodate and respect all viewpoints, citizen comments are limited by ordinance to no more than 5 minutes each. Comments should be respectful and focused on providing new information that will benefit the Council's deliberative process. The Chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers. City Council meetings are broadcast live on CityLink and online at www.siouxfalls.org. Information regarding the City Council, its committees, meetings, briefings, and members is available by visiting www.siouxfalls.org/council or by calling the Council office at 605-367-8085. Thank you for your interest in Sioux Falls City government.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Certainly pleased to have you here. Let's start our meeting by introducing you to your City Council.
Council members Erpenbach.
Here.
Jameson.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Kiley.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here.
Staggers.
Present.
Anderson.
Here.
Erickson. Here. Mayor Huether.
Thanks, Council, for being here tonight. We appreciate it. We do start our meetings in Sioux Falls with an invocation, and Dr. Ron Tottingham is back to lead us in that invocation. He's from Empire Baptist Temple. What we'd ask you to do is to stand as Dr. Ron gives us that invocation, and then remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Ron, welcome back, sir.
Thank you all for your work. This is my time to give you a Christmas present, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for the work you do sacrificially, and Merry Christmas to all of you. Our Father, thank you tonight for your blessings to us. It's really about you, and the season's about you, and I pray that you'd bless now. Bless this group here that takes the time out of their day and things like that, and probably are not paid what they should be for the efforts they put in to give us one of the greatest cities in the entire world. I pray you bless them tonight. Bless those that come to this place and take part in the council and helping our city be what it is. Bless us now. We ask this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, wow. Boy. Wow.
Councilman Rolfing and I are very proud to represent the City Council tonight in giving one of our staff the recognition she very much has earned and deserves. On November 24th, Denise Tucker was informed by the International Institute of Municipal Clerks that she had earned their Master Municipal Clerk designation. On behalf of the City Council, it's my pleasure to present her with this plaque. The IIMC grants the MMC designation only to those municipal clerks who complete a demanding education requirement and who have a record of significant contributions to their local government, their community, and state. It took Denise 6 years to obtain the 100 points required, 60 educational, 40 social needed. She earned the points by attending the IIMC conference, the Study Abroad program, and the Minnesota Advanced Academy, serving on the IIMC Public Relations and Marketing Committee and the CASA Board of Directors, serving as a You Succeed mentor and taking numerous educational classes through FEMA and Gale courses. Obtaining the certified or master municipal clerk designation is not a requirement of the assistant city clerk position, and it does not come with a pay raise. It is a personal choice. According to the IIMC, as of November 30th, 2015, there are 10,027 IIMC members worldwide, 18 IIMC members in South Dakota, 1,319 MMCs worldwide, and 3 MMCs in South Dakota. Please join me in congratulating Denise D. Tucker on her Master Municipal Clerk designation.
Council, thank you very much. We'll now move on to our consent agenda. Any motions or changes to that?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski. Kylie.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Council, now our regular agenda. Any changes to that tonight?
Move
Move
to
for-
approve.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Erpenbach made a motion to approve our regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach. Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That has also passed 8-0. Thank you. Welcome to tonight's meeting. We're certainly glad to have you here. Folks, this is an opportunity for you to engage the council on really any topic that you want. There's a bevy of items that are coming up later on, and we know there's a number of people who want to talk to those items. What we'd ask you to do is to wait until that agenda item comes up, and then you'll have all the time in the world to speak. But right now, if there's any other topic that's not on the agenda, just come on forward. Just introduce yourself to the people of our town. And if you can keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, we would appreciate that. Welcome, sir.
Hello, thank you. My name is Daryl Meyer, and I'm a lifelong resident here of Sioux Falls. I was born in Sioux Valley Hospital, and I grew up in the Lowell School District area and lived there till I entered the Air Force, and I after that I decided to go to college, so I used my VA benefits and did that, and came and ended up after being at USD and getting my degree there. My first job was down in Vermilion, and it turned out I worked there until I moved to Denver for a couple of years, and then came back here and been here since. All my family lives here and everything. So, and I am really proud of this city, and I think you guys do a great job. I have a lot of things. If I tell people what I'm proud of, it's like the bike trails, the quality of life here, and things like that. I've even used like the web page to report problems with the streets, and I usually get a response within a week saying we'll look into it, and they do it, and it's done within 3 weeks. I was like I mentioned, I was in, there was a street on around 15th or between 15th and 16th and Prairie that had sunk. You couldn't really see it, but it sunk. It was deep enough where it wouldn't really cause any damage, but you could maybe spill your coffee or drop your phone if you weren't careful. But again, that was fixed within 3 weeks. So I'm really proud of the city. And the one issue I want to bring up tonight, it's an old issue, but it's about the renaming of Powderhouse Road. And I am one of the 3 main people who are circulating petitions to try to get that to the vote. I definitely appreciate your thoughts of having a Veterans Parkway, and me being a veteran myself, I love that idea. But I think it really should go where Russell Street is. And and just the name of it, Veterans Parkway, I don't see where Parkway has anything to do with where it is now. I mean, the only park out there is Herndon. So, but it's beautiful out there. I have a brother who he's all with the name change. He loves it because it's a beautiful drive there, you know. But the other thing is, I've had some good experiences doing the petitions. I've met people who experienced the explosion, or whose mother did, and heard stories about that. And actually, one time I got a signature, and the woman had left before I had a chance to really look at her name closely. It was my 6th grade teacher from old school. So I've had good experiences. So nothing bad about it. But I just have a couple questions. I'm sure they're going to be like rhetorical. I know you can't answer questions. But the one question is, why is it called Veterans Parkway? You know, when it's on the east side in town. Another question is, I could read my writing here. I looked. I didn't see where the name change went to any of the boards that I thought it might go to, like the Board of Historical Preservation or maybe the City Naming Committee. I didn't see it in any of the minutes there, so that kind of confused me. And I guess the last thing I just would ask, I know we still have a couple weeks, actually 30 days, to get our petition signed, something like that. But it's going to be tough. So, but I guess, yeah, if it's at all possible, I'd ask that you put it to a vote, put it to a city vote. And if that's all I have for now, I thank you for your time. Thank you for everything.
Mr. Meyer, great job. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, sir.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Mr. Meyer, how do you spell your first and last names, please, for the record?
Daryl, it's Daryl, D-A-R-Y-L, and then Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate it. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Good evening, councilmen, councilwomen, and Mr. Mayor. Robert Colby, Robert common spelling, K-O-L-B-E. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and women and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth for all of one's lifetime. That was Mark Twain. And I've had the good fortune of traveling a fair number of places and haven't been to South America or the southern part of the African continent. But one of the observations that I've made is that there is an awful lot of land that I've traveled over that makes western South Dakota look fertile. And we here in South Dakota are blessed with a fair amount of good soil, but in what I call the J's, when you go from Yankton, Vermilion, Elk Point, up through Canton, Sioux Falls, Brookings, and up to Watertown, the best soil that South Dakota has to offer is in that area. And yet, the highest and best use of planning and zoning is considered commercial property. We don't put value on things like things that we can see, or lakes and rivers, and as much as we do on commercial property. We don't put value on keeping agricultural area. Mr. Wooster is here in the crowd, and I know that he would agree that this is an agricultural country or area in our state, and we should maintain that. Highest and best use is not always converting to commercial property. It's like food. Food is good, and you can eat a lot of it. But the end result is you can put on too much weight, you can get obese, you can have health problems and all the rest of that. For the momentary good, you do something in the long haul, the long term. And so I would give you this admonition. Whenever you think about the highest and best use of property, think about what is the future of that property. We literally should be building up, because the city's infrastructure is cheaper to build up than it is to put miles of sewer, miles of waterway, miles of power and other utilities when you could be building up. Most of us have yards, but how many of us do anything in our yard? We mow the grass, then we throw it away. It's useless. We could have a common area, common parks that people could use. When I was on the county commission some time ago, the largest single crop in the United States was lawn grass, and it is absolutely useless. And with that, I would wish you happy holidays. And because of happy holidays, some people get a little uptight on that. In the 2 months from the middle of November to the middle of January, there are approximately 25 different significant religious holidays in 7 different religions. So happy holidays.
Mr. Colby, thank you so much. Appreciate it, sir. Anybody else want to engage the council before we move on with the meeting? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate those comments. Let's now move on to item 16.
Transfer of 2016 retail liquor license with Sunday sales certificate and video lottery terminals from Red Buffalo Trading Company, Inc., Skelly's Pub and Grill, 130 South Phillips Avenue, to Pave LLC, Skelly's Pub and Grill, 130 South Phillips Avenue, pending permits and final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Item 17, new 2016 retail wine license for Guillermo Pedro Mitiera, Authentic Mexican Restaurant and Bakery, 337 South Phillips Avenue. Item 18, new 2015-16 retail malt beverage license for Guillermo Pedro Mitiera, Authentic Mexican Restaurant and Bakery, 337 South Phillips Avenue. Item 19, new 2016 retail wine license for Golden Coin Casino, Inc., Golden Coin Casino, 2505 West Russell Street, Suite 101. Item 20, transfer of 2015 retail liquor license with video lottery terminals from SKK LLC, the Copper Lounge, 136 South Phillips Avenue, to IJK LLC, the Copper Lounge, 136 South Phillips Avenue. Item 21, renewal of 2016 retail liquor license for IJK LLC, the Copper Lounge, 136 South Phillips Avenue. Item 22, transfer of 2015 retail liquor license with Sunday sales certificate from TSK Inc., Stogie's Cigar Lounge, 215 South Phillips Avenue, to IJK Inc., Stogie's Cigar Lounge, 215 South Phillips Avenue. Item 23, renewal of 2016 retail liquor license for IJK Inc., Stogie's Cigar Lounge, 215 South Phillips Avenue. Item 24, transfer of 2015-16 packaged malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license from Freedom Value Centers, Inc., Erickson Value Center, 1601 South Minnesota Avenue, to JAMBE2 LLC Freedom Value Center, 1601 South Minnesota Avenue. Item 25, special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Catering America, Inc., to be operated at the Carpenter Ballroom, 221 South Phillips Avenue, for holiday parties on January 8th and 9th, 2016. Item 26, various retail liquor, packaged liquor, and retail wine license renewals for 2016 to be operated at various locations in the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, identified as Exhibit E.
Jamie?
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. Item 16 is a transfer due to a transfer of ownership. The applicant is present if you have any specific questions about the business. Items 17 and 18 are requests for a new restaurant. Item 19 is a request to sell wine. This particular applicant was approved to sell malt beverages earlier this year. Items 20 through 23 are transfers transfers due to a change in the corporation and then their respective renewals. Item 24 is a transfer of ownership, and the applicant is present if you have questions for him. 25 is a special one-day event. Item 26 is Exhibit E, which are the last of the remaining renewals for 2016. And on that exhibit are 4 businesses that failed underage stings in the last renewal period. And there are representatives present if you would like me to call them forward so that you could speak with them.
Mr. Mayor. Go ahead.
Yes, Councilor Erickson.
Make a motion to approve items 16 through 25.
Thank you.
Second, Erpenbach.
It's been a motion to approve items 16 through 25 by Councilor Erickson, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Any discussion on those particular items? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Let us pass 8-0. Councilor Erpenbach.
Question for you, Jamie. I'm looking at the chart. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 that didn't pass in 2015. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are they the only 4, or remind me if we've looked at other ones?
They're the only 4 liquor, wine, and wine renewals.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Jamie, normally we would have these folks, I guess, come forward if they failed the sting. Would you mind introducing these folks along with the establishment that they're here to talk about? And folks, what we ask is that tell us what your firm, your business, your operation has done to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Jamie?
Yes. Becky Bauer with Bauer Enterprises.
Thank you. Mr. Bauer? Or Ms. Bauer? Welcome.
So what we've done so it doesn't happen again?
Yes.
Well, we've gotten new registers and the scanners on them, they can scan their ID now, so they can't look at an underage one and say they're okay, so it won't let them proceed with the sale. And we're getting everybody TAM certified, so.
They weren't before?
No, we didn't have them all TAM certified. The one who failed was new, so she'd only been there a month, but.
Okay. Council, yes, Councilor Mbach.
Question, maybe for Jamie or maybe for you, ma'am. You have a violation last year and this year at that same location. Can you talk about what happened there? I mean, we've always said that really our only sort of recourse with these kinds of things is the city council is just kind of this public moment that we put you on the spot. But you have 2 in a row. What's up with that?
You know, they were both new employees. I don't know. They both carded them. They asked for ID. They showed them their cards. They were read, and they just let them go.
So, Mr. Mayor,
yes,
one
please,
more. Then, what do you do with those folks? Then, what's your policy? How do you respond to them?
Well, they don't work there anymore. You know, it's cut and dried from start that you have to card everybody, and they're supposed to enter it in the register, and both of them thought they could do the math in their head, I guess. So. Mm-hmm. But they're required to enter it in the register, and it'll tell them if they can proceed with the sale or not.
Well, I realize it's difficult as a small business owner, but I appreciate that they don't work there anymore. That's a huge deal to me. I mean, to us as city council members, it's important to us that we abide by this. So thank you.
Ms. Bauer, thank you very much. Jamie,
Mr.
next.
Mayor.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Councilor
sorry,
Kelly.
Councilor Kelly.
Excuse me, if you could come back.
So sorry. My fault. That was Councilor Kelly.
Since both involve new employees, what have you done to change your employee training and to enhance that training?
Well, that's why we're going to get them TAM certified now when they start. And we just got in the new scanners with the new registers, so they have to scan them to proceed with the sale.
Is there anything else you do in addition to explain the need to do this?
I've
If you
tried.
could fill us in.
You do. You tell them and you tell them and you tell them, but so I guess that's the best we can do.
Councilor Jameson.
Thank you. Two questions maybe. Do you have a security system that videotapes all these transactions?
Yep.
So you can use those as training and...
Yep.
Okay, and how much did you spend on those new registers with the scanning?
New registers were $18,000. We had to get new ones because of the chips and the credit cards, because our old registers wouldn't handle the software.
Okay, so you took a major upgrade. And Jamie, a question for you, if I could. As Councilor Erpenbach mentioned, this is, let me, for Jamie here, Councilor Erpenbach mentioned this is the second offense in 2 rows. What is the rule again if there should be a third and in a certain window of time? And what is the next step if that should happen?
The rule per state law would be that if the licensee has not had more than 2 violations in selling for a person under the age of 21 on the premise where the violation occurred in the past 24 months. And I don't have the data exactly as to when. I know when this violation occurred was on 4/21, but I didn't look back to see when that other violation occurred. It could have been, at the very beginning of that renewal cycle, so it could have been quite a time in between. So I apologize, I don't have that information for you.
And if it should fall within that time frame, a letter is written to the state, or what's the?
I believe that maybe Keith Allenstein might be able to speak to this a little bit better, but I believe that when the violation occurs, a letter goes to the business owner, and I believe a letter also goes to the state that they have failed that sting. And beyond that, I know that fines are imposed from the state, and I believe the fine is more if they've not been TAM certified.
I think that's right. Thank you.
Jamie, the next business, please.
Sure. I have Dave Grevlos from Davlon Inc. Shopping Cart.
Ms. Grevlos, welcome.
Good evening. It's been a long time. That's good. I'm here to focus on the failure, but I really want to talk about the successes I've had. I mean, nobody keeps track, but I'm in the high 90% range with 6 stores, and I'm not here very often. So, one of the conditions when you fail is you have to change your management plan. You guys want to hear what's happening to fix the problem. When I always tell Jamie, what do I change? You read word for word. It's, if you follow it, I won't have to be here, and we'll be 100% compliant. But again, we try not to hire stupid people. But you don't know they're stupid until they do something stupid, and that's failing a sting. And they do it once, and then you want to choke them, but you don't. You just fire them, and you try to use them as example. So again, I could stack up the letters I get from the city congratulating me on passing stings, but I got to come and just face the bad ones. But so I spent a lot of time on our management plan. Like, what do I change? But you got to change something. Because one year I told Jamie, here it is, it's the same, it works, and I got it turned back to me. So no, you got to change something. So I gave it to my wife. She figured something out. This year, I did come up with something that I'm really doing. And we have the same registers too, and it's brand new. and they're very expensive, and I've seen it in action, and it prints out a ticket and says either transaction unavailable or it's accepted, but there's a default key on there also. Because the driver's licenses, if the barcodes are skewed for whatever reason, you have to be able to get out of that transaction. So they can default it and still, make human errors. So it's not the cure-all, but it's the best we can do. I've had the fancy machines, and we failed this thing because it gave a green light and it didn't work. Well, this company's from California. Is he going to fly here and defend me? No. So those went in the garbage, and we keep trying. But what I am doing is, most of the time, I think 100% of the time, it is new employees. Our seasoned employees, we just don't have a problem. So what I lose sleep over is that new employee that maybe didn't get trained properly. So I started the first 90 days, they have to sign something. They will get tested by me. And I don't send in a 20-year-old. That's too easy, I think. So in our policy is somebody that's around 30 years old that has never been in that store before, because that wouldn't be fair either, because they might, be a regular. If they don't card that person, then they're fired the next day. We'll let them finish their shift, of course. Otherwise, I'd have to go in. But and so that's the best I can do, is to find out if they are going to be in compliance. And so the first 90 days, they get tested by me at least once, and I try to find someone that looks around 30 years old. Because my policy is, if you don't look 50, you're supposed to get carded. That's my policy. And so we failed this thing once. They looked 30, and I said, you know what? You followed my policy, and you still failed, so I had to change it. So anyway, we're trying, really.
Ms. Grevels, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Grevels? Jamie, the next one, please.
Thank
you. Andy Sutton from Hy-Vee.
Mr. Sutton, welcome.
Councilman, well, Hy-Vee, after the first few days of employment, they go through an orientation where they find out which products are age restricted. And also all of our POS systems are equipped with flagging all restricted packages for override. And our particular store had that override, and our store policy is that only managers can override that transaction. This particular assistant manager saw the ID, was an underage ID, and he proceeded to type his own birth date in to get the transaction through. So this in particular employee no longer works for Hy-Vee. That's our policy, that if you sell to a minor, that you will be terminated. Something that we've changed going forward is we enabled our scanners to scan the backs of IDs to make sure that the dates are over in order to purchase packages that are restricted, that will automatically be enabled through the scanner. So we require all of the packages to be scanned through. However, there is an ability for that manager to override that transaction, but that is on their call if they want to do that or not. Something else that we've changed is this particular manager was not TAM certified, and in order to go through with an override on an alcohol transaction, they have to go through the TAM certification. And so since then, we have every single assistant manager that can override a transaction to be TAM certified. So if they are not TAM certified, they cannot override alcohol. So those are the changes that we've made at our store going forward.
Mr. Sutton, thank you very much. Jamie, the fourth business, please.
Walmart is the last business. Unfortunately, I didn't have contact with the company to find out who the representative is, so I hope
anybody here from Walmart tonight? No one's here from Walmart. Council, any motions, any actions?
I think we've done this before, if I might just think out loud, when we have not had a representative here, and that we have taken them out and asked them to come to the next meeting, but it's close to the end of the year and we don't have another meeting Do we, how,
Jamie, is there any time to allow Walmart the opportunity to come to another meeting, or do they have to decide tonight?
You could defer that particular item until, when is your first meeting in January? The 5th.
okay, so I would make the motion then, Mr. Mayor, that we would defer out of this item the Walmart store, Walmart Supercenter, 5200 West, 60th Street North. We're going to defer that to January 5th.
And approve the others?
I was going to do it separately.
That sounds fine. Sounds great. It's been a motion to defer the Walmart store until a later date in January. It has been seconded.
Who seconded?
Councilor Karski. Any question? Yes. Councilor Karski?
No question, and I'm just more of a comment. I don't own a store like you, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a lot of people to manage. And to the new ones that we're looking at approving tonight, I would be telling my employees that it's you that gets fired, the employee, it's them that gets arrested, it's them that pays the fine, but it's you as the business owner or the manager that gets to come up here and have the humiliation of explaining why they did that. I would make sure that message is pounded home and make sure that they understand that. It's them that pays the fine. It's them that gets arrested, but you do get to come up here and explain why they did not follow your direction. So just a piece of advice, I guess.
Councilor Kelly.
I would just like to say that we do appreciate the successes that you've had, and understand that when you have a number of employees, it's difficult to control each individual's actions. However, I do not apologize for setting the bar high and setting it at 0, our tolerance at 0 for violations of this sort. But with having said that, again, I do appreciate the successes, and let's move toward 100%.
Councilor, there's been a motion to defer a certain item called Walmart. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Council, let us pass 8-0 to defer that item. Would anybody want to make a motion to approve the other three?
I think we're missing everything in item 26 then, right? That we need to make a motion to approve everything else in item 26.
Yes, thank you, Councilor
That would be my
Bach.
motion.
Second, Erickson.
And seconded by Councilor Karski. Sorry, Councilor Erickson. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Item 27.
Deferred from the City Council meeting on 12/1/15 and 11/17/15. Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 39, Personnel Regulations and Benefits, Retirement and Pensions, Section 39.036, Application to appoint of officers.
Councilor Rolfing.
Yes, thank you very much. This is a rehash of the, this is a rehash, if you will, of the drop back provision. I believe, Jim, would you like to explain where we left off, or David, and then I'll take it from there, just so everybody knows where we are and where the starting point is.
Mr. Fife.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Beg your indulgence for a moment. With the deferral motion being successful last time under Robert's rules, we are now at the point where consideration of the item is resumed and business is in the same condition as how Roberts describes it as it was immediately before the postponement. So where the council is right now is a substitute motion was made immediately prior to that deferral motion that was successful. So you have on your plate for consideration right now the substitute motion that was made by Councilor Rolfing, seconded by Councilor Karski, and Jim David is now placing that on the overhead, and it is on your monitors right now.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Again, we're at the bump back provision, and this provision allows the employees of Sioux Falls, when and if promoted to a director's position, to return to their previous position if they are ever removed from that directorship. Policies like this are supposed to be fair, equal, and consistent. We repeat those words: fair, equal, and consistent. Our current policy, the way it is, does none of that. I'm proposing to remove the language from our ordinance, but to grandfather in those who are currently affected by this policy, because that wouldn't be fair, equitable, or consistent either. There are several reasons for this proposal. I've gone over most of them. You guys, everyone here, knows my feelings on that and knows the reasons that I believe that this ordinance should be changed to the way it is right now. And so I'm not gonna go over there, but I individually, but I would urge you to vote for this because it's the right thing to do, in my opinion, to put things on an even keel. So I would appreciate your positive vote on this.
Councilor Rolfe, thank you. Councilor Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I have talked to each counselor individually, I believe, or at least communicated with them. And I do have a substitute motion on that, just amending that. I've talked to Councilor Rolfing, who would view it as probably an unfriendly amendment, but I am going to read this and then ask for just a moment to explain why. My motion is to amend subsection B of the substitute motion by deleting the words on or before December 31st, 2015.
Now, I don't think we can second it until we've.
It needs to be seconded before it.
Do we have to? We can second it now?
You can amend a substitute motion, and it needs an second on it like any other amendment.
Okay. I'll
Jim
second
and I
that.
checked it, Roberts.
Okay.
There's been a motion to amend subsection B of the substitute motion by deleting the words on or before December 31st, 2015 by Councilor Erickson, seconded by Councilor Karski. Councilor Erickson.
So what I wanted to explain is there was a lot of moving parts that we left the meeting by, lots of different changes. We've had some time to do our due diligence and research, as well as talk to the community and each other. This motion allows the bump back provision to stay intact by removing that December 31st, but it does give cause. So for example, if you are appointed to a position from civil service and you made a bad choice or you're a bad employee and somebody wants to fire you, the mayor, whoever's sitting at this chair, chooses to replace you for cause because you did something not meeting whatever, you will then not have the provision to be bumped back, which makes sense that you should not get another job if you're not doing a good job at your current job at that time. This provision, like I said, is for everyone. We originally voted on an amendment by Councilor Jamieson excluding police and fire. This does not exclude police and fire. It includes everybody in that and basically just adds the simple provision that if you are fired for cause, you will not be allowed the bump back at that time, but it will keep it in place for everyone else moving forward. Again, lots of moving parts last time. I've had an opportunity to express myself to each of you, and we'll ask that you support that.
Councilor Rolfe.
I appreciate your thoughtfulness, Councilor Erickson. However, you are correct. I will view that as an unfriendly amendment for the simple reason that I talked about before. That is that still allows the drop back provision for everyone in an appointed position. I think we got to remember that we're talking about 9 people right now. That's it. 9 people are affected by this. And then after January 1st, everyone will be on an equal basis, equal footing. This by adding that on, we're allowing people to drop back who maybe couldn't be reprimanded or removed from office for some sort of cause, but would still be able to go back if it wasn't quite at that level. And going back into that position, into a former position, could cause all kinds of trouble within that department. So I would urge a no vote on the amendment, and let's keep it clean. Let's keep it that way, the way it's amended here, for the consideration, without that bump back.
Well, just trying to get clarification from Attorney Fifley. The amendment then regarding police and fire not being affected by this is, can you inform the council where we're at with that?
Sure. what happens is a substitute motion, Counselor Kiley, if approved, and it can be amended, if it, a substitute motion, if it is approved, then that knocks out what was the main motion and also that amendment regarding police and fire as an exception. If this fails, substitute motion fails, then the amendment is still then under consideration. I hope, sorry, it's Roberts. It's not the easiest to understand.
And for that reason, I would not be in favor of this, because I would like to see the exclusion of police and fire in the bump back clause. I am in favor, however, of the last line. This provision does not apply to any appointed officer who has been removed from a point of office for any reason that would warrant a demotion, suspension, or discharge of any employee who is subject to this chapter to the end of subsection B. I'm in favor of that portion of this substitute motion, but not the rest of it.
I have a question. Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Erickson.
Question for Attorney Fifley, if I may. So I have my motion, which would wipe out his. Can you explain it again? Because what I'm confused about is at what point police and fire are out, because we already voted on that, and that passed. However, based on how he has it said, that would remove it if Councilor Rolfing's motion passed.
With your amendment to the substitute motion, Councilor Erickson, you have, by removing honor before December 31, 2015, bump back rights would be restored if
For
that
everyone.
Amendment passed.
Correct.
To the substitute
For
motion.
everyone.
Including police and fire.
Correct.
And the for-cause provision is there regardless. If this substitute motion as either the amendment to it holds or not, to the substitute motion, my apologies, it's Roberts. If the substitute motion fails, then you return back to the main motion originally made with the amendment attached that it accepts police and fire. So I hope that explains it.
Police and fire would be included in Councilor Rolfing's substitute motion.
Say that again.
His substitute motion would cover only grandfathering those who are currently appointed office.
Correct. So it would not cover police and fire. Councilor Rolfing's would not cover it. Thank you.
Councilor Karski.
I'm going to ask everybody to support this, and I know not everyone will, but Councilor Rolfing made the point of treating everybody equal and fair. Chief Burns, Chief Sedaris, love the work you guys do. I respect the heck out of your departments, but I respect all the other departments in our city too. And I think treating everybody in equal and fair, not just fire and police, is the right thing to do. So I am going to tell you that I would not support an amendment just for fire and police. It has to be everybody, to treat everybody equal and fair.
To what format?
No on the amendment.
We're voting on amendment or substitute motion?
You'd be voting on the amendment to the substitute motion. Which is striking out honor before December 31, 2015.
Which allows bump back for everybody.
Correct.
That is in civil service.
Correct.
We don't want that.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Erpenbach.
No.
Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
No.
No, we don't.
Rolfing.
No.
Staggers.
No.
Just said you did.
Anderson.
No.
Erickson.
Yes.
That has failed 3-5. Now, we have a substitute motion for consideration that was relayed by Councilor Rolfing.
Right.
Council, do you understand this substitute motion?
Could we get that repeated, please, to be sure we're
Sure.
which one we're looking at?
Substitute motion for consideration is as follows. anyone holding an appointed office on or before December 31st, 2015, who, at the time of his or her appointment thereto, was in the civil service of the city, shall, upon his or her removal from appointed office, be returned to his or her former position and pay as an employee of the city, and the period of his or her tenure as an appointed officer shall be included in his or her civil service rights. This provision does not apply to any appointed officer who has been removed from appointed office for any reason that would warrant a demotion, suspension, or discharge of any employee who is subject to this chapter. Is that right, Councilor?
Yes, that's the way I understand it. And I would support that.
A roll call vote, please.
Just a point of clarification. As I read that, then it's doing the opposite of what you had originally proposed.
No.
Then clear this up for me.
This will, for the people, this is your last part is what you're talking about there that would make it a little different. What that does is says for the people who are under the bump back provision now, the 9 people, they would still have the bump back provision. However, if they are removed for cause, they would not have the bump back provision. Everyone else is treated after December 31st, 2015, everybody is on an even keel. Did I have that correct? Do you have questions on that?
No, that clarifies it for me. However, again, as I'd stated earlier, I do firmly believe that in this case that we need to treat fire and police differently. And I know originally I had stated that was part of the whole topic that I had problem with, but after talking with the individuals involved, I do agree that there is a great difference between engineers and other managers finding positions within this community versus a firefighter or a police officer to find another position of that sort within this community, not forcing them to uproot their families and move outside. So again, I cannot support this.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Jameson.
Thank you. Yes, and again, without starting all this over, we've gone through this up and down. I know we're struggling, but it's time to just end this.
Thank you.
And vote no because of a lot of reasons, but it's time to move on. When the administration HR department brings this as a recommended idea, then I can think about it a little differently. But when we're doing it, I'm not there.
Councilor, thank you.
Could I respond to that? Would you mind?
It better be different, Councilor Rolfing, because we have hammered this thing.
I'll let it go then, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, just to double check who made the motion and who seconded it for the record.
It was Councilor Rolfing, and it was seconded by Councilor Karski.
Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jameson.
No.
Karski.
No.
Kiley.
No.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
No.
I vote, the mayor votes yes, so that is passed 5-4. Item 28.
Deferred from the City Council meeting on 12/8/15, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 41 fees.
Matt Nelson, Public Parking Facilities Manager. Tonight I'll be presenting on items 28 and 29, and I'll give you a summary right now on both items. I would like to just recap where we've been on this. It is our rate increases or rate adjustments that we've been looking at. Our most recent rate increases were 7 years ago. We have some rate increases that date back to 2004, which is nearly 11 years ago. So it's been some time since we have looked at this, and this year we contracted with Walker Parking Consultants, a leading parking consultant in the industry, to come in and do a rate study. When they came in, they presented 2 cases to us. One case was an aggressive case that was pushing the market and pushing profitability. And the second case was a more conservative case. And looking at those two cases, we are going forward with the proposal of the conservative case. We feel that conservative case is responsible. We feel it is in line with Sioux Falls values, and we feel like it's in line with our parking system, how we're built, and how we've operated recently. To summarize those increases, the first increases would be at our meters. We're looking at increases of 15 cents to 25 cents per hour. If you average that out since our last increases, it would be an increase of about 2.2 cents per year. The other increase that we'll be asking for is our permit parking increase. That increase is a weighted average of $4.79. That's approximately $5 when you average it out, and it's about 71 cents per year if you look at our last increase that was in 2009. And our final adjustment that we're looking at is overtime parking citations. We're asking to take those to $10. We feel that that is conservative and responsible when looking at our comparable data set. And when we looked at the data set that's in the Walker Report that's online, we looked at 5 cities: Cedar Rapids, Iowa; Rochester, Minnesota; Rapid City, South Dakota; Sioux City, Iowa; and Lincoln, Nebraska. Of those, we are below the average. The average was approximately $10.70, and there are 2 cities below us, and that's important to note. One of those cities was at $7.50. That was Cedar Rapids, Iowa. In 2016, Cedar Rapids will go to $10 for overtime citations at meters, and they will go to $15 for overtime citations in time zones. So the only city that will be below us on that entire list will be Sioux City, and they will be at $9. So looking at that set, we do feel that is a responsible amount to ask for. We've worked to communicate this as we've gone through the process, and we started by doing the rate analysis and presenting it to you as a council. We've also taken this to the Downtown Sioux Falls Executive Board, and at the Executive Board we received a unanimous vote of support for these changes. We've taken it to our Public Parking Advisory Board, which is fully supportive of these changes, and we also took it to the Downtown Sioux Falls members meeting. And at the members meeting we had some excellent discussion on how our system operates, what these increases would look like, and we actually received a round of applause afterwards. And yes, that is a first for me. So, so we often get asked, well, why would you bring rate increases forward? Why now? And well, one of the number one reasons, it's inflation and costs are going up. We've worked to keep costs down, create efficiencies. We've reduced staffing. We've looked at all of our contracts. We even challenged the state on some tax rules or laws or some items we were paying tax on, and we actually received tax refunds. We're paying less every year. We're constantly looking for efficiencies, but we're running out of efficiencies to create. And while we're doing that, we are creating or implementing new technology in our system. We've put in credit card meters. We're looking at adding pay stations downtown. We need new equipment in our ramps. We have a new enterprise system. So all of these costs and inflation is starting to catch up with us, and we're truly at a break-even point in our system right now. And the other important factor is we need to add to our system. We're full. We're at 92% right now. Estimate at the end of next year we'll be at 100% or very close to 100% full. Without these increases, we will not be able to responsibly manage our system, continue to grow, and add parking to downtown. So with that, item 28 is the first item on the agenda, and that item actually covers the meter increases and the permit rate adjustments. So this time I'd open it up to any questions or concerns you may have.
Folks, this is a second reading. Is there anybody who in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. For the record, George Hahn, lifelong resident of Sioux Falls. When Walker Parking Consultants did as the city requested, they performed a thorough analysis. It sets forth a plan to increase the parking revenues by over $200,000 a year, both at the city lots and at the on-street meters. Doesn't seem too unreasonable since, as this gentleman pointed out, some of these rates haven't been raised in 14, 11, or 12 years, and most of them really should go a little higher. However, as often is the case, there's an untold story about this parking increase, and that's the overtime parking fee jumping from $5 to $10. Yes, there were meetings in the DTSF and the downtown merchants. Everybody else was consulted, talked about it, got applause, fine. That increase is not addressed by the Walker study in any way, shape, or form. Only at 10 minutes of 5 today did a young gentleman by the name of Matt from Community Development get back to me and tell me that we write about 23,000 overtime parking tickets a year. So if we exclude those that are on the periphery of the downtown hardcore, as I call it, that's about 20,000 tickets a year. So to grab another $100,000 a year, we put at risk the entire downtown core's business future. I've talked to other realtors who said, well, if I got to risk a $10 ticket, I'll go eat at Spazia's. I don't need to go downtown. I can shop for shoes at 40 places in the Empire. I don't need to go to that new store downtown. People that work downtown at a modest wage are very upset about the prospect of risking $10 when 5 is bad enough. Younger folks that come down to see some of the specialty stores that I personally know that are friends and relatives of fellow realtors, they're not going to come downtown to risk a $10 ticket. $10 is what they make in an hour. If they're on a 4-hour shift, they can't afford 25% of their pay for that evening or that afternoon put at risk. This is a bad move. The Chamber of Commerce, DTSF, Sculpture Walk, BID, everybody has spent millions and millions of dollars over the last 20 years bringing around a revolution in downtown Sioux Falls. Those of you that are old enough who have been around as long as I have, remember what it was like 20 years ago. Downtown was almost a wasteland. It has vastly changed right now. And everyone involved in downtown development, which I have been, I introduced tax incremental financing to this community in 1990, always state parking is the most difficult situation to wrap your hands around. It is, it always will be. And I've got several very good ideas that could move forward as to how to create employee parking downtown, something we desperately need. But to grab $100,000 a year is not a good idea. I think it will severely damage Sioux Falls well into the future. You can vote to do exactly that, or you can vote not to. It's up to you. Thank you.
George, thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate it. Folks, anybody else? Council? Councilor Jameson?
Question for Matt, if I could. A couple of the streets, is it Maine, I think, that doesn't have meters on it? They're part of that road diet thing. How do you argue that you leave some places without meters and then raise the rates in other places?
So, excellent question. So the original plan and the plan currently is not to leave that unmetered. Right now, as part of a pilot program that it originally started as, was to put time zones in there because we could do it immediately, test the program, see if it worked. Long-term solution is pay stations, which are expensive and they need to be funded. They cost $10,000 to $15,000 per pay station. So we do plan to monitor that and enforce it. And we do enforce it now. It's very time-consuming. It takes actually quite a bit of time because we mark in literally every vehicle as they walk by.
So the concern is there's a marketing advantage if you are near or close to those areas where parking is easier than a metered spot.
I would agree. Right now, that's true. We've seen some really good prosperity on Main Avenue, especially the 200 block. We've seen new buildings come in. Some of those were planned and I'm sure being looked at, though, prior to this Main Avenue diet. So I think currently they do have somewhat of an advantage. It also creates some disadvantages. We have a lot of people that will park on that street and walk down to Phillips Avenue or walk up to Dakota. We have employees from several of the businesses that flood the blocks there where there is no parking for restaurants that are newly opened. So it's a double-edged sword. So it does actually work both ways.
I could, one last piece on the idea that honestly, you've done a fine job of bringing all those groups together to support these increases. I mean, really, that's a lot to do. You've done a fine job doing that. I think, you know, and at the end of the day, I'm like any other person. I'd sure have liked to avoid a parking ticket and or plug in the meters, but I sure come down to town as much as I can because I love it. But I can't help but think it's going to have a chilling effect on all of downtown by these rate increases. For some people who see it as a large increase, are just going to stay away. As long as the business owners down there are responsible for participating in this discussion as you've included them, it seems like they're making an educated decision. Those guys know their business better than anybody, so I find it hard not to support it. I mean, really, but it's just...
Councilor Jameson, do you want to make a motion to support this item?
I don't like it that much.
You don't like it that much? Would anybody else want to? Councilor...
I have a question.
Councilor...
I'll make a motion to
Thank you,
approve.
Councilor Rolfing. Would anybody else want to second that?
Second, Urban
Thank you, Councilor Buck. Councilor Anderson, Jr.?
Matt, we're, and the one thing that I don't agree on is the increase in the fines, the overtime. We doubled that. The history has been we've raised it in increments of $2, maybe $3. Tell me why we should double this now.
Okay, so just to be clear, item 28 is not that citation increase. That will be item 29, which is fair, but certainly we've put it together, it's intertwined, so now's a great time to answer it. Well, the first thing I'll start off with is low citation prices do not equal prosperity. Just because you have a lower price ticket doesn't mean that we're going to flourish any more or any less. I think the rates are responsible when you look at our comparable set, and we've got some things that are unique to Sioux Falls. One of the things that, and this is in our budget book for 2016, if you look at the citations that we've issued since 2009, we talk about right sizing our staff. We've reduced our staffing, we've adjusted it. We actually issue a significant amount of citations. We issued approximately 39,500 citations in 2009. In 2014, we issued approximately 27,000 citations. So we're reducing our enforcement. Now the penalty may be a little higher, but the amount of enforcement is less. And feel that is responsible with where we're at right now. And if you look at it, we are literally below, we will be below or equal to every city on that set except Sioux City. And if you looked at Sioux City's downtown versus Sioux Falls downtown, I would make a strong argument that Sioux Falls is flourishing. Sioux City's system is subsidized by their general fund also. And courtesy, we have a very generous courtesy program. 20% of the citations we issue every year at the meters are warnings. So 20% of the work we do, that was almost 6,000 citations last year. That's a huge amount and almost unheard of in any other city. And we're also free. So the people that come down for lunch and during business hours when we have the high demand, yes, we ask them to pay. We have leased parking to ensure that it's available. But after 5 p.m., all of our lots and ramps are free. All of our street parking is free. So this is a huge plus for the people of Sioux Falls to come downtown, to come to parades, St. Patrick's Day parades, the Parade of Lights, any of those events downtown, they can flourish, and no one has to worry about paying for anything unless it's in a private lot, which many of the private lots do charge for those events.
Thank you.
Councilor Carley.
How much time can you currently put on a meter?
It depends on the location. They vary from 90 minutes. I think most are 2 hours, 2 hours to 10 hours. So it just depends on where you're at and the turnover that we want to create.
Okay, so if it's 2 hours, I park at 8 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock, I get a parking ticket. It's $5 currently. Mm-hmm. And if I leave that there the rest of the day?
You potentially can receive a citation for every increment of time. So if it was a 2.5 hour meter, by ordinance, you could receive a ticket every 2.5 hours. Does that usually happen? No. Now, if you were in a 15-minute zone and you decided to leave your car there all day, it's very likely you would get 2. We would never issue more than 3 in a day, but it is common for us to issue 2 in maybe a 15-minute zone.
And the idea of losing business, are there other merchants that might claim that I'm losing business because this vehicle's been parked here X number of hours and they're depriving new shoppers in my store? Do you hear that argument?
Absolutely. That's the core of why we have meters. It's the reason we do is to keep people from parking there all day, especially employees of different businesses, people that live downtown, and we're seeing increased issues with the number of residents coming downtown.
Okay. Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Anderson?
No.
Erickson?
Yes.
That has passed 6-2. Thank you. Item 29.
deferred from the City Council meeting of 12/8/15, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 77 parking regulations.
So item 29 we've discussed, but this addresses specifically the overtime citations only, and that is the rate going from $5 to $10. Like I will just say again, we feel this is very responsible, very much in line and below our peer cities that were in the study. And honestly, I've got a note in here about from an individual that sent us $10 within the last 2 months, saying that $5 wasn't enough, keep the 10. I've been to parking conferences where people laugh when I tell them we have $5 parking citations. So.
Is there anybody in the audience who want to speak to this item? Mr. Hahn, welcome.
Just an additional comment on my original remarks. Sure, we cite Rapid City and Cedar Rapids and places like that. But the Walker study nowhere addresses how their parking is funded. It does not explain whether it's general fund or meters only. It doesn't explain a lot of things on which we would form an opinion that doubling ours is good for business. One of the problems I cited, employee parking, that's the biggest single problem downtown. I've had every merchant I know talk about that for years and years and years. And before we go ahead and double the overtime parking ticket and risk a loss of business, which the merchants may not even see themselves, I think we've got to address the idea of what we can do about employee parking. There are several places that could be done at not great expense, at a heck of a lot less risk to the future of downtown than doubling something from $5 to $10, when $10 is what these people make an hour. The employees can't afford it, the businesses can't afford it, and I don't want to see the city council risk the future of downtown to raise a rotten $100,000 a year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, George. Appreciate that. Council, would anybody want to make a motion on this item?
If I'd just like to add to that, employee parking is an issue downtown. So, George, thank you for bringing that up. It's something that we've talked about. Most businesses do offer parking to their employees. There are a handful of businesses that do not. And we do offer lease parking in the area, and we encourage these businesses. We reach out to them to offer it to their employees and send them to us. Many of them choose not to use it. So rather than pay anywhere from $32 a month on up, they choose to play what we call the meter game. And they will feed the meter all day, and they'll pay $5 to $6 in meters, or they won't feed the meters and they go to a 10-hour meter and they get one ticket at $5, now $10. And then they decide not to pay them. Maybe they get behind on something. And eventually, you know, the amount of tickets they build up, and some of these vehicles get towed. And unfortunately, that's part of poor choices. And we just want to, we really want to make that penalty a little stiffer than $5, because $5 isn't really enough. So when they get that, they don't think much of it. And hopefully $10 will get them into our ramps. And in the long run, it will save them money. It will give them a place to park. Now, if there are some options to create employee parking, I would love to entertain that. One of the issues right now, like we talk about building a new ramp, we would be limited on what we could even offer them right now because we are running out of parking that is a public asset downtown.
Thanks, Matt. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Motion to amend the parking fine to $8.
Councilor, I don't even have a motion to approve yet.
I thought you already had the motion.
I'll move to approve it.
Second, Urbanbach.
There's been a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Urbanbach. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Motion to amend the parking fine from $10 to $8. That way it's just what we've been doing as
Hang on,
increment.
Councilor Anderson, Jr. That's failed for lack of a second.
Second.
You got one right at the
Second.
right at the
Okay.
buzzer.
Oh, great. Any discussion, Councilor Anderson, Jr.?
I just think that we should continue along the route that we have been doing and just incremental raises here and see how it does affect the downtown. I just feel that doubling this is just too much.
Councilor Urbanbach.
Matt, would you remind us the last time we raised these fees? You said it earlier.
The last time we did citation increases was 2004. That was from $3 to $5, and at the same time, we also implemented the courtesy program, which now encompasses nearly 20% of our citations. So limiting the increases, even though we did do a $2 increase, it was even probably less than that with the courtesy program that was implemented.
So we do an increment every 11 years or whatever. So no, I think let's do this and do it right.
A roll call vote on the amendment, please, moving it from 10 to 8.
Council members Erpenbach,
No.
Jameson,
No.
Karski,
No.
Kylie,
No.
Rolfing,
No.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
No.
That has failed 2 to 6. We're now back on the main motion. Councilor Erpenbach?
Just one brief thing. Please go lease a parking spot. It's far cheaper, and we have plenty of parking in this town.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Anderson,
No.
Erickson.
Yes.
That has passed 6 to 2. Item 30.
Deferred from the City Council meeting on 12/8/15, second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, establishing the tax increment revenues to be collected and authorizing the payment of tax increment revenues to Washington Square Partners, LLC, in accordance with the development agreement for tax incremental district number 20, City of Sioux Falls.
Brett?
Yeah, good evening, Brent O'Neill. Thanks for having me. Item 20 is the last step, working through TIF 20 at the council level. The action tonight would allow the city to enter into an agreement with Washington Square Partners, who will construct the Washington Square complex, that picture you see on the bottom. I have this single slide, a repeat from 2 weeks ago, to remind the council of the project, it being about a $30 million project. The amount of the agreement would put $2.9 million in TIF into that project. That number would be defined by the cost on the right that fall into 2 categories. Some of those site conditions could be reimbursed at the 100% level, and then those costs associated with the parking structure component of that would be at 40%. There is a financing component to this that's built into the agreement, and then an important part of this, through our negotiations, through our work with the developer, there will be 125 spaces open and available to the public. They will be free at nights, and certainly the lease option during the day. So with that, I'd answer any questions, and then we do have the development team here as well.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Council?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second.
Karski.
Councilor Rolfing has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Karski. Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Brett, let's talk about the parking ramp in there. How much is that parking ramp again going to cost?
The approximate cost is about $6 million. The city would pay for, or the TIF would pay for about 40% of that cost.
Okay, and what's the rules on this parking ramp? During the day, is citizens going to be able to utilize that parking ramp?
It would be free nights and weekends to the public. During the day, the owners will own and operate it, and they'll run it much like we run our system, where it can be leased out. Clearly, the parking during the day is there to support the building itself, and they could probably address that better than I could, but certainly I see there being a daytime priority given to clients and tenants of the building.
We have a if I may, Mayor,
Please.
We have a parking ramp across the street to the south.
Yep.
What's the availability of parking in that parking ramp? How much is that parking ramp being utilized during the day and during the night?
Sure. I don't have the exact metrics. If
Matt?
Matt and Darren are still here and want to supersede me, I'd be happy to step aside.
Matt, the question Councilor Anderson, Jr. had is, what's the occupancy of the city-owned parking lot right beside the proposed Washington Square?
So that ramp is just over 50% leased overall. So good question, because we were concerned, me specifically, concerned with how does that affect my business? Are you going to steal business? And looking at some of their needs and how it's going to shift parkers, it's actually going to have the opposite effect. It is going to create quite a few more occupants in their building, and they're going to have to relocate some of their current tenants and people that lease from them as a business, and they're going to push them into our ramp. So in the long run, it's actually going to be a benefit to us during construction, and even after construction, we do anticipate getting a portion of the people that use that current parking lot.
Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers, Anderson,
No.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 7-1. Item 31.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the 2016 municipal election booklet.
Hi, Lori Hogstad, City Clerk. This ordinance tonight, as Denise read, is the second reading for the adoption of the municipal election booklet. This will be for the city elections of April 12 and a possible secondary election of May 3rd. The book contains information for the candidates, but especially contains the campaign finance reporting guidelines and the deadlines, and as well as our official election policy and regulation. And we discuss as well the different state statutes, Chapter 12-27, which is the entire campaign finance reporting guidelines. I would ask for your approval of this booklet, and this would authorize me to distribute the booklet to potential candidates as well as posting it on our city's website. And I did want to add that in working with City Attorney Fifley on this booklet, his take on this was that if we put the deadlines in this booklet and adopt them by ordinance, that we would have the force of law to enforce those deadlines. So I ask for your approval.
Lori, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who want to speak to this item? Councilors.
I would move approval, Rolfing.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to approve this item, second by Councilor Anderson Jr. I want to thank you for your efforts. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 32.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by adopting the 2015 International Building Code and amendments thereto.
Good evening, Ron Bell, Building Services. You're going to hear a series of a bunch of building codes that's published by the International Code Council. It's an update to the 2015 International Code criteria. Your first one will be the International Building Code, the 2015 International Building Code. Just to give you a background, that the International Code Council goes through a national consensus process. It's a 3-year process of getting input from anybody across the country that has a code change. At the end of the 3-year code change process, those code changes are published in a new edition. And with this, in this case, we're looking at the International Building Code, which is your commercial code. This code deals with all facets of commercial construction, whether it's occupancy type of construction, structural requirements, fire resistivities, accessibilities, and so forth. We started this process in January. The codes were out in January. We brought in an individual from the International Code Council and had a meeting with up to 100 contractors, and he went through an entire day of all those code changes. What we have done is we have put on our website, and it's been out for public comment, of 2 pages of what we think are the most prevalent code changes, significant code changes. So that's been out there. We've had that discussion during our informational meeting. So we're looking at second reading for simply the adoption of the International Building Code.
Ron, thank you for your efforts. Appreciate that. Is there anybody in the audience who want to speak to this particular item? Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve item 32, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 7-1. Item 33.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by adopting the 2015 International Residential Building Code and amendments thereto.
This is the 2015 International Residential Code. For lack of a better term, this is a home builder's code. This code applies to 1- and 2-family dwelling units, townhomes, not more than 3 stories in height, has its own independent exit systems, and all accessory garages. This code basically prescribes all aspect of building construction, whether it's wood frame, steel frame, concrete, and all the other life safety requirements. This process was brought in front of the Sioux Empire Home Builders Association. There's a code development committee that I believe we started meeting in about March, and we met monthly, and we literally went through every modification, every code change that was in the 2015 I codes, and we also looked at all of our amendments to try to get rid of any of amendments that we've had. Again, we've got two pages that have been on our website of significant changes, and the one issue that really did come up with an impasse was concerning the fire protection of floors. This provision was put in the 2012 IRC, and it was brought to the Home Builders Association, and the Home Builders Association did not support it, and we took it out by local amendment. What happened this time around was when we met with the Code Development Committee, this was about a couple months after there was a fire death in Brandon. So my proposal to the Home Builders Association that if they choose to want to keep this amendment from going into the code, that I felt that this really needed to be a public hearing and the home builders would have to bring this up for consideration.
Ron, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Cully Liebert. I am the current president of the Home Builders Association here in Sioux Falls. As many of you already know, the Home Builders does have a long-standing relationship with the city and the building services staff. And we at the Home Builders really do appreciate being included in the process of the codes review. As a second-generation home builder, myself, I understand the importance of building codes and the importance of updating and continuing them to better protect our homeowners and tenants. As we all know, fire protection is of great importance when we're trying to keep families safe in their homes. The building industry and we at the Home Builders have supported many code changes related to fire safety, with some which include smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, escape and rescue openings such as egress windows, arc fault circuit interrupters, and many other building fire protection practices. Over the past months, our code committee has met with Ron Bell to review new code updates coming forward. After long discussions at the Home Builders, we feel the provision to drywall the ceilings and unfinished basements, as proposed, will give a false sense of security to not only our homeowners, but fire rescue professionals as well. It is unavoidable there will be penetrations through the ceiling to allow for mechanical systems, which are not required under this code to be sealed. These penetrations, along with open stairways and other perimeter gaps, greatly diminishes the effectiveness of this ceiling, therefore creating this false sense of security. While this code proposal strives to make homes safer, it does add cost to a home. And although we would never put a price on human lives, we are concerned about housing affordability. The Home Builders Association estimates this code change would add about $2 per square foot, which equates to between $2,000 and $3,000 for an average priced home. According to the National Association of Home Builders, in the Sioux Falls market, for every $1,000 a home increases in cost, we price out 283 households from achieving the American dream of home ownership. Realizing that the decisions that we make in regards to building codes directly affects lives and affordability, it is important that we base those decisions on sound analytical data. We have yet to find sound data that shows how much more time this code provision will provide for families to escape in a fire. That being said, the Home Builders Association strongly supports expanded consumer fire safety education and cost-effective residential fire protection technologies that are based on sound analytical data. The Home Builders Association is vitally concerned with safety for all homeowners and tenants. Going forward, we hope to continue to have the opportunity to work with our city government and fire professionals to find cost-effective solutions to this and other code-related issues. In the end, we are not able to find a solution to this issue. Therefore, we would respectfully ask that you continue to amend this provision out of the code. On behalf of the home builders, I want to thank you for your consideration this evening on this issue. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak to this item? Welcome.
I'm Jeff Thuey with Component Manufacturing in Sioux Falls here. We're a roof and floor truss manufacturer, and we employ about 140 people in town here. We are in support of amending this proposal also because Sioux Falls not only affects the local proper, but a lot of other towns and cities around here follow the suit of Sioux Falls. And it does raise the cost of the home ownership, not only for the owner, but potentially for the future owners too, if the basement doesn't get finished right away. Floor trusses are a cost-effective and solution to home building, and have helped reduce costs to build. Another problem with the way the IRC has written this law, and there were some politics involved nationally in this, the law would exempt 2x10s. And that would, from having to get sheetrocked, and that would create a unfair monopoly in the home building process, and I don't think that's a right scenario, especially with all the other problems that are created that Kelly just brought up. So another thing is Sioux Falls has always been a very pro-growth and has been very successful in a thriving community, and thanks in large part to Ron and his department and the city's leadership, and I don't think this law, the way it's written, would do any benefit to the city of Sioux Falls. So we would support the amendment to keep the law as it is right now as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there anybody else welcome, sir.
Good evening, Paul Nelson Construction. I was the local chair of the committee that worked with Ron, and we do appreciate the time he gives us to go through all these codes. I've researched this new code, and I have found zero data that tells us what this code is going to allow us any more time for a firefighter or a homeowner to get out. So I find that kind of interesting that they create a code, but there's no data. So I've talked to the chairman of the National Association of Home Builders, lives in Blue Springs, Missouri, right outside of the greater Kansas City area. It's just not us, Sioux Falls, that has kept this out of our code. It's happened all across the nation. So I'm going to urge you, please, do not adopt this. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak to this item? Welcome. I also just want to say I want to thank the Kelly, Jeff, and Paul. All your comments have been unique. That's important when we're talking to the council. I would just encourage no repetitive comments if you don't mind. And again, Kelly, Jeff, Paul, thank you. They were all unique. Welcome.
Larry Lukey with the Realtor Association. I'm the chair of the Government Affairs Committee, and we also support the HBA in turning this down. The reason for that, we're looking at as a new buyer, basically buying a new construction home. With that increase, basically you're pricing people out of the market, and what you're doing is basically making it harder for people to purchase these new homes because it's going to cost them more. So we urge you to vote this down.
Larry, thank you. Appreciate it. George, welcome.
I'm back. George Hahn, Sioux Falls. The idea of fire safety is a tremendous idea. We've achieved the best fire ratings you can possibly achieve in the United States through the efforts of our fire department across the board. I love the idea of better fire protection in homes. Like Larry Lukey, a fellow realtor, I sell homes. I help people get builders to properly equip them. However, the cost of throwing up a layer of drywall on the underside of a home, $2,000 to $3,000 that is under construction, is just oppressive. Now, look, in the last 15 years, we've already added thousands and thousands of dollars to the codes. I support every one of those additional items. They're better for the mechanical, electric, structural, energy efficiency of the homes. They make the homes more saleable into the future. This is one which will not make a house more saleable into the future. Throw up a layer of drywall. Well, you got to get it a pipe. Pipes break. Got to get it some electrical stuff. Things happen. Shut-off valves may be up there. A duct may need repair. So you're going to have somebody hack a bunch of holes in there. So you go to sell the house in 4 or 5 years, even 8 years. You got a bunch of holes hacked in the ceiling, which totally negates the fire safety that you're trying to achieve in the first place to a large degree. What are you going to do? Repair it at thousands of dollars cost. It will affect the resale value. And according to the NAR study, also cited by the home builders, it will cost us 300 homes a year being built in Sioux Falls. We can't afford to lose our housing base. It's inevitable that this next week, the Federal Reserve is going to raise the Fed funds rate by 1/4 point. Inflation of building materials, labor costs, labor shortages, all of these will combine to hurt home building even more than is necessary. The fire marshal and the building inspection people state that floor stiffness is less with open web trusses. Well, that's a simple thing to fix. You can either stiffen the floor truss by using a stronger piece of wood on the bottom cord, or you can double the bottom cord. You can change the deflection specs easily on a computer in 5 minutes. You can use structural bridging, wood, steel, or steel straps woven in between the span of the trusses, probably 2 or 3 in a given span. Now, this council was elected to be stewards over the most important asset we have, our land and our buildings, otherwise known as our assessable tax base. A reduction in new home building will have a disaster for us, not only in the short term, but in the long term. Taxes on our existing homes could easily rise and this might even help our labor shortage in the very short run, but it would be a lousy way to do it. I wholeheartedly encourage you. Do as probably half of the major metropolitan areas in the United States have done with this same notion. Defeat it. Thank you.
George, thank you very much. All very, very good comments. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak to this item? Oh, God.
Stanga. I guess one thing I want to do is, where do we stop? Are we going to make, next year, are we going to make them fire tape it too as they put it up on the ceiling? I guess the thing is, 9 out of 10 houses are not finished in the basement. And are we going to make people take sheetrock, all the sheetrock down in the basement to be able to frame up the walls, be able to run all the wires down to the outlets, to the lights, your cable and all that stuff, your heating, air conditioning, and then have them put it, then you just throw that away because it's done, and then redo it again? You're just wasting money, and you're just putting more money on the homeowner, because 9 times out of 10, these people, the reason why they don't do their basement is because they don't have the money right away to do it. That's when they save up money, and their families are getting bigger. Then they decide we need more room. So that's when they do their basements. But what you're doing is you're putting a burden not only on the builder, but you're putting a burden on the homeowner, because you're going to have somebody come in, tear it down from the ceiling, throw it in the dumpster, which you're wasting material. And let's do it the right way. Let's don't pass this.
Mr. Stanga, that was good testimony. Very good. Is there anybody else who wants to speak to this item that would have unique comments? Because the citizens have done an incredible job so far. Good. City Council?
I'm going to move approval.
Thank you.
A second.
There's been a motion to approve this item. It has been seconded. Any amendments? Councilor Karski.
I have an amendment. I'd like the clerk to read it into the records if you don't
Please.
mind, Denise. Or I can.
Would you mind,
okay.
Councilor Karski?
I make a motion to amend by excluding section R 302.13, fire protection of floors, from the city's adoption of the Internal Residential Code 2015 edition.
And that was International Residential Code 2015 edition. Is there a second?
Second, Erickson.
It's been seconded by Councilor Erickson. Any discussion that would be unique from what we've already heard? Councilor Buck.
I'm going to struggle with this. It comes back to safety, and I understand, that affordable housing is a huge thing for all of us, me in particular. When we talk about things that being cost-effective for home construction, that means they're less expensive, and I get that. But I think that we also need to acknowledge that adding that extra layer of sheetrock does add an extra layer of safety. Whether there's actual numbers to how much time that involves, whether that actually saves lives or not, we can't prove that right now. Very uncomfortable with this amendment, very uncomfortable with it. But I hear what's being said as well. This is a tough spot to be in. And if something is to happen in the future, I'm really uncomfortable with it.
Councilor Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand that there's not sound data on it, and so I'd hope that we can research and find other options. There's not sound data on this. Is there a fire repellent product that can be sprayed that lasts the lifetime of the house? I don't know. I reached out to a couple contractors, and a couple of them brought that up, and that's certainly an option down the road. Right now, currently, the way it stands, is nothing stopping me from doing this. So for me, we built a house. We did not finish the basement because we could not afford to finish it all at the same time. As we, continue to, our kids get bigger, whatever, we now need the space, and so we're starting to finish it. I had that option at building time with my contractor. I could have done it, but we chose not to. And so it's an option, and if people choose to do it, go for it. If you can't, I understand that too. But there are options that we can be researching as well. And so I hope that for the sake of safety, we continue to look at that. But I cannot support keeping this into the code as it is.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
I guess taking a look at this also, I'm looking for more data so that we can make a better educated decision on this. I hope that that data can be provided at some time, but also understanding putting that cap up, there is still going to be areas that will be exposed to those trusses, and the airflow will go up in there, so that I just don't feel that there's enough data to show the time that it is going to be effective.
Councilor Kiley.
Question for Ron Bell, and then
Mr. Bell?
Is there a code that requires any unfinished levels to have a door at the bottom of the staircase so that fire cannot just sweep up a stairwell?
No.
There is not?
No.
And what would the cost be? Would it be pretty minimal in terms of putting up sheetrock?
I'm sorry, a door between the upper and lower level?
At the lower level, yeah. At the base of the stairwell.
Yeah. There's already a fire resistant requirement between the house and garage, and that would be a 20-minute door or a solid core wood door. So yeah, a simple matter of a door being in there, and there has been fire tests. The fire tests that has been done on the 2x10 joist found that the joist actually lasted through a fire test up to 15 minutes, but what failed was that the fire simply went through the floor system. But there's also criteria with the fire test. One test was with the door, one test was without. And the more ventilation that you have, the faster that fire and the harder that fire is going to burn. So again, what the intention here was to put in a layer of half-inch sheetrock for light frame wood construction to try to match what the ASTM E84 test did of 15 minutes with the 2x10 joist system. So there is criteria out there. But the other thing is that this allows openings, and it allows up to 80 square foot of openings, which, a perfect place for this to occur is going to be in a mechanical room, and a mechanical room is probably where a fire could start, in a basement. But
so even if you have a cap without a door at the base of the stairwell, the fire could still sweep up your stairwell. Yeah. Nothing preventing that.
Would Dean want to, we got Dean Lanier, our fire marshal here. I'm sure that he could answer that better than myself.
That's what he just said, yeah.
Dean Lanier, Fire Marshal with Sioux Falls Fire Rescue. Actually, Counselor, the question that you ask is actually an interesting opinion. As you look at fire being fed oxygen, closing off a space and not allowing that oxygen free form down to a lower level would have an impact on the fire. So there is merit to the concept that the envelope that you create by not allowing free flow of air has some impact on fire behavior. That is true.
Okay. And then my other question was really for Cully, if the you'd mentioned education, this is for Cully with the Home Builders Association. Since you're on the forefront of this as home builders, are you willing to spearhead that
Yeah, I mean,
program?
I really think that there are some options out there that, maybe are a little more cost effective. I think anything we do is probably going to add some cost to a house, try to reduce it. But what we're really not in favor of is the, the fact that we all know that if that goes up, there's a lot of monkeying around and stuff that's going to have to happen where we're going to be wasting product. Is there some other something that we can be doing?
I apologize to interrupt. The question was, are you going to get involved in the educational aspect of the program?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the home builders would love to be involved with that. I mean, we really would, I think that educating homeowners on what they can do and how they can get out and having maybe a fire safety escape plan type of thing, from keeping their houses organized maybe. There's a lot of things that could be done there, but we would definitely support something, education program or something like that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
You bet.
Before we go back to Councilor Karski.
We've heard from a lot of people tonight, home builders, realtors, industry experts. Cully did a great job with what he said about the information, the documentation, the lack of information. We've also received a lot of emails, at least I know I have, and some of it from people that are concerned about keeping homes affordable. Habitat for Humanity is a good example. Not every one of them is in support of amending this out. I'm not an expert on home building, and I'm not an expert on fire protection. Most of these people are, and I'm going to go with the advice that they're giving, and I'm going to ask you to support the amendment to remove that section from this ordinance.
Councilor Buck.
Just one more question,
Okay.
Ron Bell, if I could.
Ms.
Just
Bell.
a clarification on the requirement. Remind us, it's a sheetrock cap when it's the truss system. Sheetrock cap, is it required throughout the basement, or what if that mechanical room is already, there's a mechanical room in the basement, the rest of it's unfinished, I put the cap all the way around, do I have to also put the cap in the furnace room, in the mechanical room?
The sheetrock lid would be going over the light framework construction, but you can see that what happened in the 2015 code that they've clarified. They clarified that penetrations for openings for ducts, vents, electrical outlets, lights, devices, wire speakers, all those penetrations are allowed, and you're allowed to have up to 80 square feet of opening. So if you didn't put any lights or speakers or whatever, you could have up to 80 square feet of opening in a mechanical room, and the National Model Code allows that with this.
Right, so the mechanical room's not going to get it. And so to me, again, I am incredibly uncomfortable with this, but it doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up for me listening to all this conversation.
We've got an amendment by Councilor Karski, seconded by Councilor Erickson. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. And I think it should be noted that Mr. Bell, in the beginning of this conversation, said that he wanted public testimony on this particular item. In my 5.5 years as being your mayor, honestly, I will tell you, it is, I think, the best public testimony, Ron, that we've ever heard So your forum worked out incredibly well. We had 6 citizens that actually gave all unique perspective, and we actually had city councilors that in every comment gave unique perspective that all added to the public testimony. It worked, right, Mr. Bell. Thank you for your efforts. Council, any more discussion that's unique? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That has passed 7-1. Item 34.
Second reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by adopting the 2015 International Existing Building Code and amendments thereto.
Thank you. This is the proposal to adopt a sister code to both the International Building Code, International Residential Code. This is the International Existing Building Code. This was promulgated by ICC and was published in 2003. And since 2003, it has been an alternative for designers to be able to use as a scoping requirement for existing buildings. This deals with remodels, renovations, additions, moved buildings, and so forth. What has happened with this code change cycle is that they eliminated Chapter 34 of the International Building Code, which dealt with remodels, eliminated altogether, where this becomes a mandatory scoping document for how you would approach remodels, renovations in existing buildings. As far as any local amendments, what we did is that we took we have ordinances concerning relocated and moved buildings because that is scoped in the existing building code. We took it out of our amendments in the building code and put it into the existing building code. Again, one thing that I haven't said is the building code, the residential code, the existing building code, all had review and approvals through our Board of Appeals, and all recommended for approval for second reading.
Thanks, Ron. Is there anybody who wanted to speak to this item? Council?
Move to approve, Karski.
Councilor Karski's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Karski.
Yes, that has passed 7-1. Item 35.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by adopting the 2015 International Mechanical Code and the 2015 International Fuel Gas Code and amendments thereto.
For lack of a better term, these two codes are a heating, ventilation, air conditioning standard. Both of these documents went through extensive review with our actual Mechanical Board of Appeals. Our Mechanical Board of Appeals met monthly for a period of 3 to 4 months, went over all the local modifications. They did a real good job of getting rid of some old local amendments and spent a lot of time with whole house ventilation to try to make that more palatable and better working for both apartments and houses. Mechanical Board obviously proposed that this be adopted as is with local amendments.
Thank you, Ron. Did anybody want to speak to this item in the audience? Councilors?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That has passed 7-1. Item 36.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by adopting the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code and amendments thereto.
All the previous codes are construction codes, new constructions dealing with remodels, renovations, new buildings and structures. This code is a maintenance code. This deals with minimum standards in existing buildings. This is what our property maintenance division utilizes for everything from dilapidated structures to tearing down structures. This was reviewed with our property maintenance board, and they requested approval, and it was also brought in front of the Sioux Falls Multi-Housing Association twice to get their input, and they also are hoping for approval of this 2015 document.
Ron, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak to this item? A roll call vote, please. Oh, I'm sorry, we better have a motion.
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Erpenbach's made a motion to approve item 36, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. That has passed 7-1. Item 37.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by eliminating the maximum 2-year time period for a homeowner's plumbing, mechanical, and electrical permit, to eliminate homeowner permits for new houses to be consistent with state rule, and to set a 90-day time period from the date of application to administer a mechanical exam, residential construction supervisor exam, electrical exam, and a plumbing exam, and to expand the obligation of the residential contractor's compliance bond to include fees charged by Public Works.
And this last ordinance is really a cleanup of a lot of administrative criteria that we have within building services. The first one is eliminating the 2-year time period that we have for mechanical, plumbing, and electrical homeowners permits, and just simply tie the time period of those permits with what the building code has for any building permit, and that is that you have to commence work within 6 months, and you have to call and request inspections every 6 months to keep it active. The installation by the owner is really getting in line with what the State Electrical Commission has told us to do, and that is that a homeowner's electrical permit in accordance with their rules is allowed to be issued for an individual that lives in and owns a house. They don't allow homeowners permits for new construction because the individual doesn't live in the house. The third item is our examinations. And what this is saying, that once you apply for a license examination, if you don't take the test within 90 days, you forfeit that fee. And the last one is really expanding our bond requirement for residential contractors. This would also include those types of costs and fees that Public Works would administer. I got an email from Diane Best specifying that there is one contractor that owes $8,000 in tipping fees with the landfill. This would allow, instead of going through collection agency and so forth, to simply access the bond in order to get those types of payments.
Thanks, Ron. Is anybody in the audience who want to speak to this item? Councilor Erickson.
Just have a quick question, and I might have heard it wrong. It's very possible. So one of the things that you were talking about is that you cannot, a future homeowner cannot be issued a homeowner's electrical permit because they are not living in a home. So for example, I know on our street's fairly new, and I know a neighbor up the street, 3 or 4 houses up, they're living in their current house, but they were putting a lot of sweat equity into the house. They did a ton of work themselves to save on it because it's just what he does. That's not going to be allowed.
That is allowed. If you live in the house, if you own the house and you live in the house.
Does not live in the house, though. He lives in house A and he's building house B.
No.
So he can't obviously live in a home that's not completed yet. And so they want to get that going far enough to where they can get the main floor done, sell their house. Both homes are owned by him. They took out both loans in this instance. That's currently allowed, and you're saying now we're not going to be?
We have currently allowed it. Our ordinances have said who lives and intends to live in the house. Only the State Electrical Commission has had a ruling, and I believe that they got an opinion from the Attorney General saying that a person has to actually live in the house in order to obtain a homeowner's permit. Now, this is only dealing with electrical. So that individual would have to hire a licensed electrical contractor to do that wiring, who would be responsible for code compliance and inspection.
So could he do the plumbing work then?
We didn't take that into plumbing or mechanical. We left the ordinances just like it was because it's
everything but electrical.
Right.
So I mean, there's enough to keep he or she busy.
Yes.
Ooh, I don't know if I like that, but I understand. All right, thanks.
Good job. Councilor Rolfing.
My question on that, Ron, is are the plumbers and the HVAC and all the other ones that require the license in that situation going to come next year or the next one and say, we like what the electricians did to guarantee us work, even though this guy gets a license, gets enough qualifications before he does it in a property that he doesn't own? Are they going to come back and say the same thing, which I think they might if this goes through?
Well, but what this is saying is only for somebody that's building a new house.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. It doesn't, but
they'd have to, they'd have to get a license
then
contractor.
the plumbers and the HVAC guys, just not the electrical guys, they got to do it with a certified electrician, even if the guy gets certified.
Okay. First of all, there is no state group that deals with mechanical. There is a state group with the Plumbing Commission, and they've never told us that they've never provided us with the information on saying that you can't do work in a house that you don't own. So the only thing that we're doing is that we're accommodating the state electrical commission who has told us.
But that could be possible that next year or the next time this comes around, the plumbers would ask for the same thing, which would generally take most of that stuff out that they can, or a lot of the stuff out that they could do.
Only for new homes, and we're not proposing that.
You're not proposing it?
We're not. We're saying that this is only going to be with electrical.
Right.
Councilor Rebroadcast.
And it's based on the State Electrical Commission. It's not something we're proposing as the City of Sioux Falls. We're just going along with the state at this point. If the State Plumbing Commission,
Electrical Commission.
but if the State Plumbing Commission, I don't know that's the real name, but if they came along and said, okay, now we're doing it too, then Sioux Falls will. But Sioux Falls isn't going to instigate this.
Yes.
We're just going along with what state law says anyway.
Do we have to go with state law?
We cannot be less restrictive than state law.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We cannot be less restrictive than state law.
You have to be equal or harder?
We can amend our ordinance to be more restrictive, but not less.
Council, would anybody want to do a motion on this item?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Rebroadcast made a motion to approve this item, second by Councilor Karski. Councilor Anderson Jr.?
Just one last thing, Ron. This is the last time I'm going to be able to vote on these type of improvements. I just want to thank you and your department for allowing our city to grow, but still considering the safety of our buildings and our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Rolfing?
No.
Staggers?
No.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 6-2. Thank you. And Ron, I think there was a comment made earlier about how not only are you doing this, you and your team are doing this for the city of Sioux Falls, but also almost all of South Dakota then watches what you do and what your team does, and then they replicate it or duplicate it or copy it. So on behalf of all of South Dakota, and I shouldn't say it like that, the council, we thank you for your efforts. Great job. Item 38.
Second reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by revising Chapter 117, Peddlers and Vendors.
I'm going to allow Jim David to present on this, and I'll just, to preface, this is a product of Jim David's work, Chief Burns, Keith Allenstein, as well as myself, and even one of our citizens.
Good evening, Jim David, Legislative Operations Manager for the City Council. For final consideration tonight is a proposed ordinance that amends the existing Peddlers and Vendors ordinance. But before I discuss the proposed changes, I put up on the screen the definition of a peddler. I'm paraphrasing, but a peddler is a person that travels from place to place selling tangible items or services. Nothing in this proposal tonight changes this definition. A peddler is not a person going place to place representing a school, charity, or place of worship. A peddler is not a salesperson selling exclusively to businesses and someone selling produce or a rummage sale. This proposal tonight makes no changes to these exceptions. This proposal does, however, make it unlawful for a peddler to enter anyone's residence unless they are expressly invited. They must also prominently display their peddler permit to would-be customers. This proposal also amends the application process by requiring a picture ID and sales tax number. Those individuals with significant criminal background would be unable to acquire a permit or a peddler permit. For example, those who have ever been convicted of a sex crime or a crime of violence in the last 10 years would be disqualified. And finally, this proposal adds suspension to the police department's enforcement toolbox and clarifies the revocation process. An individual whose application was denied or whose permit was suspended or revoked has that right to appeal. This proposal was discussed in great detail at land use and at first reading, and tonight is for your final consideration. Will be available for any questions that you may have on this item.
Jim, thank you very much. Good job. Anybody in the audience want to speak to this item? Councilor Kylie, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, move for approval.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Kylie's made a motion to approve this item that he's worked so hard on, and Councilor Erpenbach is right behind him there. Anybody want to speak? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski, Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 6-1. Item 39.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing provisional supplemental appropriations for snow removal operations.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. I also have Galen Huber here as well. As the title is represented, this is provisional in nature, would only be used for snow removal and only if we need it. We have had a decent break in weather of recent, but this was brought forward under an abundance of caution after the November back-to-back snow events. And so we are here to answer your questions, but would certainly ask for your support.
Is there anybody in the audience who want to speak to this item? Councilors.
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, second by Councilor Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Appreciate it. That passed 8-0. Item 40.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving a lease of horse barn facilities within Falls Park.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Don Kearney with Parks and Rec. Certainly pleased to be able to present this lease between the city and Stockyards Plaza, Inc. I wanted to provide an overview of the proposed lease and the terms of that lease, and then would also recognize Jim Wooster and Susan Randall that are in the audience representing Stockyards Plaza, Inc. Some of the goals of the Stockyards Ag experience is to preserve the history and the legacy of Sioux Falls Stockyards Complex and its impact on the agriculture of this economy. One of the other goals is to showcase the continuing story of agriculture's provision of food from farm to table. It would also educate the region about the agriculture's evolving relationship with the world, and then it would also create a fun, interactive learning environment for people of all ages. As proposed, this would be a 3-year lease with the option to extend for an additional 2 3-year terms. The capital improvement project that we have in our capital improvement plan will renovate the existing barn. We have some much needed improvements that need to be made to that historical building, and they largely include architectural, mechanical, and electrical upgrades. This lease would also allow Stockyards Plaza, Inc. to charge a nominal fee for admission, $3 for adults, $1 for children, and anyone 6 and under would be free of charge. The City of Sioux Falls' responsibilities would include providing those capital improvements that we talked about earlier, estimated to be about $186,000. And then we would also provide any building maintenance in excess of $250 per occurrence. Stockyards Plaza, Inc. responsibilities would allow them to operate the museum telling the history of the Sioux Falls Stockyards. They would also be providing all the funding for the design and construction administration of those improvements that we will be making in 2016 with an estimated value of $25,000. They would also be responsible for utilities on the horse barn, including Wi-Fi, telephone, email services, and those things that need to be able to operate the facility. They will purchase, own, insure, and maintain all the exhibits that would be installed in the horse barn, and they will raise annual operating costs estimated to be about $100,000 on an annual basis. Timeline, just for everybody's reference, was that last Tuesday we were before you at the informational. Earlier this evening, the Parks and Recreation Board did approve this proposed lease and recommends approval to the City Council. The first reading obviously is tonight. Second reading would be on January 5th. We would propose to bid the project for the improvements in 2016, complete construction in June of 2016, and then open doors of the new Stockyards Ag Experience in July of this next summer. So with that, the team would be glad to take any questions.
Don, thank you very much. Folks, this is a first reading, so council, any questions or comments for Don or any of his guests?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second, Kylie.
There's been a motion to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, January 5th for this particular item. It has been seconded as well. Councilor Erickson.
I'm just curious, John, what were the comments or the discussion at the Park Board, and what was the vote?
It was a unanimous vote, and everybody's very positive about it.
Thank you.
You bet.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson, Erickson.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thanks for staying tonight in case you had to testify. Appreciate it. Item 41.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property east and west of South Veterans Parkway and south of East Madison Street from the AG Agriculture District to the RA2 Apartment Residential Moderate Density, RA3 Apartment Residential High Density, O Office, C2 Commercial, Neighborhood and Streetcar, C3 Commercial Community, and C4 Commercial Regional Districts, petition number 3677-2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Diane DeCoyer with the Planning Office. The applicant for this item is Joel Engel. It is located east of North Veterans Parkway and south of East Madison Street. I believe what Denise read into the record was South Veterans Parkway. We will have that corrected for the second reading. The property is approximately 146 acres, and the purpose is to develop a business park. And I can answer any questions if you might have it.
Diane, thank you very much. Council?
Move for approval, Anderson. Excuse me.
Yes, thank you, Councilor.
Moved for second reading Tuesday, January 5th.
Very good. And it was seconded by Councilor Rolfing. Thank you. Yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Do you have any diagram or anything of where this is again?
I'm sorry.
Other than,
So up on the map there, you can see what is existing. Yep.
so this is,
It is east of North Veterans Parkway, just north of East 6th Street. You can see both on the west side and then on the east. So there's C4, C2, and C3 as indicated, some RA2 and RA3, so moderate and high density apartments, and some office.
okay, just was curious in my mind exactly where it was.
It's been a long night, sorry I missed that.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
Diane, on the second reading, could you have a little more information about 6th Street too?
Yes.
Or at least that dirt path?
I will
Thank
do
you.
that.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson, Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 42.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 812 South Spring Avenue from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional District, petition number 3776-2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant for this is Wayne Wagner. He's with Affordable Housing Solutions. Again, the location is at 812 South Spring Avenue. The size of the parcel is 0.15 acres. The purpose of this is to construct a single-family dwelling. The lot is only 44 feet wide. For this reason, we are rezoning it to an RT1 traditional zoning because it doesn't allow for the 50-foot minimum. The 44, as indicated, is how they'll proceed with that lot.
Diane, thank you. Council?
Approval Rolf, or move for second reading on Tuesday, January 5th.
Thanks, Counselor. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Urbanbach.
Question then, Diane, is that neighborhood is still core area, is it not all?
It is core area.
But how come it's not, they're all tiny lots, why are they not all?
This lot does not have a house on it. It was raised, so to rebuild that, we do have to, based on the new ordinance with shape places, we have to rezone it to the RT1.
But like the one across the street, is it RT1? No, they're all RS.
Yeah.
Interesting, okay. Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 43.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property south of West 12th Street and west of South Sertoma Avenue from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District to the CN Conservation District, petition number 3808, 2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant and owner for this property is Marshall Guthrie, located southwest corner of West 12th Street and South Sertoma Avenue. The size of the parcel is 0.60 acres. The purpose is to provide drainage and open space.
Thank you, Diane. Councilors?
Move to set the second reading for Tuesday, January 5th.
Second.
Very good, Council. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 44.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property west of South Greystone Avenue and north of East 69th Street from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the LW Live Work District, petition number 3812, 2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant is Jacob Quansney with Lloyd Companies, located west of South Greystone Avenue and north of East Brewster Street. Southeastern Avenue is 1/2 mile to the west, and 69th Street is 1/4 mile to the south for a little bit more bearings there. The size of the parcel is 1.06 acres, and the purpose is to construct low-density apartments and townhome buildings.
Thanks, Diane. Council?
Move to set the date of the second reading for Tuesday, January 5th.
Second, Rolfing.
Thank you, Councilors. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson? Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 45.
A resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards. And those people are Mark Young, City Naming Committee, Phil Gunvaldson, Infrastructure Review Advisory Board, Gregory Birch and Doug Swenson to the Solid Waste Planning Board.
Councilors, any thoughts?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Karski.
Thank you, Councilors. Appreciate that. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson? Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 46.
A resolution establishing the City of Sioux Falls legislative priorities for the 2016 state legislative session.
Good evening again, Jim David. Each year, the City Council, with input from city departments, identifies its legislative priorities at the start of each, or prior to the start of each legislative session. Once approved, this resolution will be delivered to 27 legislators representing 9 districts that encompass the City of Sioux Falls. For your consideration tonight are 9 priorities for the 2016 session proposed by the Council's Legislative Ad Hoc Committee that includes Councilors Anderson Jr., Erickson, Jameson, and Karski. These items include priority number 1. This is a general defensive statement expressing support for local control. It also provides an opportunity to highlight the close partnership Sioux Falls enjoys with the South Dakota Municipal League. Priority 2 supports alternative legal publication options for local government. Priority number 3 is defensive language intended to protect municipal government's limited revenue, such as property taxes and sales tax. Priority number 4 is a general statement of support for statewide initiatives to expand affordable or workforce housing. Priority number 5 proposes a county local option alcohol beverage tax for law enforcement purposes. Priority number 6 supports cooperative activities between county and municipal government. Under state law, if a county or city is unable to do so on their own, they are unable to partner with the other unit of government. Number 6 also recognizes the importance of county-city partnerships, such as 911 service, law enforcement center, museums, libraries, homeless advisory boards, and many others. Priority number 7 supports local control and flexibility at the county level to move revenue from an area that is already well-funded to fill a gap in another area. Priority number 8 supports an additional 15 days or 45 days for complicated bids, an example being wastewater pumps that are custom built. And finally, priority number 9 supports legislation eliminating a loophole in the annexation process. Be happy answering your questions.
Appreciate it, and thanks for the work. Is there anybody in the audience who want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Erickson's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Karski. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 7-1. Item 47.
A resolution establishing a pay-for-performance program for the City Council appointed positions of budget analyst, city clerk, internal auditor, internal audit manager, and legislative operations manager.
This is the annual pay per performance increase for city council appointed employees. This mirrors the 3% cost of living adjustment that's provided to the collective bargaining units and administrative appointed staff. Be happy to answer your questions.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Kylie.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this resolution, seconded by Councilor Kylie. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 48.
A resolution authorizing the City of Sioux Falls to gift a table to the Sioux Falls School District.
Good evening, Jeremy Williams, Building Maintenance Supervisor for Central Services. This request came to the city from the current principal of Washington High School. This table roughly measures 4 by 12 foot. That was made out of old doors from the original Washington High School. This table was last used in multiple areas of City Hall. The last occupant used was the attorney's office, and it has remained in storage since their conference table has been upgraded.
Jeremy, thanks for staying so long. Appreciate it. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Erickson wants to give a table away, and so does
Away.
Councilor Anderson Jr. Appreciate it. And yes, Councilor Kylie, an
comment.
old Washington teacher.
Yes.
Not old, but a prior Washington
Young
teacher.
Washington
Just call it how it is.
teacher
It's
I
okay.
think you
who
had it
was
right
in the
the
old
first
building.
time.
Young man in the old building. And it's very possible that I went through those doors, and I think it's great that we're giving the district the opportunity to continue to use this for whatever purpose they desire. But I think it's a good cause, and thank you for the opportunity.
Great job, Councilor Kylie. Thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 9.
A resolution.
49.
A resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rescheduling and postponing the business of the city for events in 2016.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lori
Great.
Hogstead, City Clerk. This will be for 2 dates in 2016. The first date is to reschedule the meeting for Tuesday, February 2nd, the 7 p.m., and of course the other meetings as well, and that will be moved to Monday, February 1st. This will be to allow the city councilors to attend the Municipal League Municipal Government Day at the legislature. And the second date will be to postpone the items that are on the 7 p.m. meeting of Tuesday, April 12th to the following week, 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 19th, as it conflicts with the Sioux Falls Municipal School Board election.
Thank you, Lori. Is there anybody wanting to speak to this item in the audience? Councilors?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to approve this resolution, seconded by Councilor Kiley. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson? Erickson?
Yes.
That's passed 8-0. Item 50.
A motion to appoint Tom Greco as the city clerk pursuant to Section 2.08 of the Charter of the City of Sioux Falls, effective January 11th, 2016.
Councilor Rolfing.
Yes, thank you very much. We had a great session, if you will, or a great process to secure Tom as our new and next city clerk. We had 90-some applicants. We narrowed it down to 25. From there, we went to 5. We interviewed 3 of those 5, and Tom stood out tremendously over the next ones. And so we are very, very happy to have him. I'm not going to say a lot about Tom, other than most of you or all of you that have been in the service are going to be saluting him, because of his rank that he comes from. So, Tom, what I'm going to ask you to do is just give a brief history of yourself and say and we're going to welcome you as part of our family.
Well, thank you, Councilman Rolfing, and nice to meet you, Mr. Mayor, and of course the rest of the council here. Yeah, a little bit about me. My name is Tom Greco. I recently retired from the United States Army after 20 years of active duty service. Been a great 20 years. I got to meet my wife, got to have and start building a family, and had a lot of really unique experiences, the most recent of which was down in Florida with the Corps of Engineers, where I spent a lot of time at meetings just like this, talking to folks just like you, and explaining, at least from my agency standpoint, what we're doing, talking about the administration of the projects that we had and the programs that we had. But I've had experience throughout the world. As a matter of fact, in the last 20 years, I've lived at 18 different addresses and 11 combined countries and states. So it's great to be here in Sioux Falls. My wife's actually a South Dakota native. We did move back here in 2009, but you can tell I keep track of my moves. Since 2009, I've been in 1 foreign country and 5 states. So I'm happy to be right here, and I'm starting a second career. Administration, government, and leadership are things that have all been very dear and passionate to me. And I'm really looking forward to, pending your approval, serving this council and the city. Thank you.
Awesome. And I might say we're looking forward to having you.
Thank you.
But we're also sad to see Lori leave.
I will be too.
Can I move approval?
Yes, please. Councilor Rolfing. Well, is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Welcome, Bruce.
Oh, Bruce.
Tom, don't go too far, sir.
I won't.
Thank you. Bruce?
Bruce Danielson. Voting to me is sacred, and our clerk should have the same view. I've been active in South Dakota politics since 1966. This past year, Lori Hogstead and I served on the Minnehaha County Election Review Committee. As chairman, I saw a very engaged Lori in the process, and we succeeded in making good changes to make the voting easier. And thank you, Lori, for being involved with it. Looking at the clerk's job description, there are several items needing to be updated, such as vote center language needing to be removed and put back to precincts, since that's what we're going to be doing. And I had a question in here about where in the description does the clerk need to have certification? We have Denise tonight being honored for her graduation to the ranks of master, and Tamara is also, I believe, and would just like to know if that's something that the clerk also the chief clerk is going to have to do. But what bothers me more is a major portion of the description concerning voting in elections. The clerk is in charge of our elections and should be an active voter. I started researching the other day as soon as I heard of Tom, then I was disappointed to discover that he has been a resident, as far as I could tell at that time, of Sioux Falls since 2010, and had not been registered to vote here. And I pulled Tom aside a little while ago and asked him and talked to him, and he had found out that he hadn't been registered to vote, and he took care of that since the issue was brought up the other day in the press. And I appreciate him having gotten that done, and we had a nice conversation out in the hallway. I'm an active voter here and in city politics, as you all have learned, and we expect to work with Tom in the future and are ready to help him where and when and how I can. And I would like to be involved in the city election this year in more ways than I have before, so I would like to thank Tom for coming on board.
Thanks, Bruce. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak to this item? Very good. And we've got him. Yes, Councilor Anderson Jr.
I just wanted to say, Tom, you've been very gracious about talking about yourself, but I just want the citizens of Sioux Falls to really understand what we have here. Tom holds a bachelor's degree in political science from the U.S. Military Academy, a master's degree in public policy from Georgetown University, and an engineering management degree from the University of Missouri-Rolla. He most recently worked with the Army Corps of Engineers as Deputy District Commander in South Florida. And it was a very difficult job down there. And as we heard when Tom left, some of the groups that were the biggest opponents of what they were doing thanked him for the job that he did. We did a national search on this, no matter whatever rumors are coming out there. This was a national search, and this man here came back to us and showed us that he wants to be a part of this community. And I thank you for doing that, and welcome to Sioux Falls politics.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Kiley.
I would just like to say that Tom served his country well and with honor, and I have no doubt that Tom is going to serve this council, the city administration, and the citizens of Sioux Falls well and with honor, and welcome to the team.
Thank you, and I will.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Councilor Stegers, did you have any comments?
Oh, I didn't have any comments, but I
Okay.
guess since you mentioned this, I would also like to throw in my 2 cents worth in saying it was very nice meeting you the other day and talking with you, and we wish you all the best now as our new city clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Council, a roll call vote, please.
Sir, we need a second.
Second, Anderson.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jameson,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Council, that is passed unanimously. Tom, welcome to the team. Council, any new items? A motion to adjourn?
Mayor, just
Yes.
one quick thing.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
As this is our last meeting of the year, and it is the holidays, for all of our citizens that are still watching and here, happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Councilor. Been a motion to adjourn, and it has been seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Sioux Falls, make it a great, great night.